What's happening, fellow traders? Well, it was certainly a very interesting day today on EURUSD, and that's why I basically, made another quick video, as in walk through the screenshots instead of me posting all 60 screenshots within the community. So yeah, here we go. So basically, after I had suffered from 6R loss here, my positions got stopped out at break even here and here, as we can see, right? So at some point, I was again looking for positions that favored my bias, right? Because here now on the 3 minute, we can see it a little bit more clearer, right? My intention was for the short term, take short positions, right? And then target here, as I mentioned earlier, right? But, unfortunately, instead of taking out that low, price came and it kind of, created efficiency here at this hidden base, right? So after that, price went higher and, first stopped me out of these 6 positions again, and then break even here and here, right? Now, at some point, we had that confirmed, close above our previous daily high, obviously, right? And, at some point, I also noticed, okay, price basically did something like this, right? It closed here above my previous high here. Yes, and then basically I noticed this year pullback, which was at this point our internal choke, right? Or liquidity, technically, right? I called it internal choke because I thought, well, if I would look for any kind of perhaps re-entry on shorts at this position, I could utilize that, right? Otherwise, it's just inducement, just to avoid confusion whatsoever, right? So yeah, basically this then our liquidity. So I am at this point again looking for buys, right? So if price gets here, I am currently looking for buy positions, right? And well, at some point I went even to the 1 minute time frame, and here I changed that internal choke to basically our liquidity point, right? So yeah, price was definitely closing into that area, right, as we can see. And then what happened, price just smashed through that liquidity point, right? And when it came into this year wick, I just thought let's mark it out, because it took out the previous candles here, right? And it basically created efficiency also here at this one, and so forth, right? So definitely an area of interest to me. And at some point I saw also a reaction happening, right? And after I noticed this, I thought, well, that is my signal or criteria to enter, at least aggressively, right? Without any confirmation of a IC, right? I'm just plain and simple single candle mitigation after a structure-wise liquidation and mitigation or retest, or, however you want to call it, to create efficiency here, right? So, yeah, basically I placed my order, and it was now pending, right, as in a limit order. And after a while I got triggered, and before price continued higher, I placed another identical 2 for 2 via a stop order, and at some point it also got triggered, right? And then price came back for some reason, probably, to create efficiency at the candle, or perhaps even the wick at some point, right? But it was in hovering between my entry and stop loss. So that's basically why I placed another third identical position of my first position via, again, a stop order, right? So at some point price definitely continued higher, so that's a good sign. And after I noticed this, I definitely considered of placing another fourth identical position of my first here position, right? This time via limit order, right? Because we basically had some very minor inefficient doji candle here, which coincidentally sits halfway of my or my entry sits on the half area way. So I thought, okay, if price comes here, and then it will trigger my limit order, and then presumably continuing higher, right? If I'm on time, I can perhaps even catch another identical sixth position, fifth position, right? Via again a stop order, but let's just see. Yeah, so that did not happen, right? So my pending order was still pending, and price just came very close and then didn't even look back, right? So it continued higher at this point. Now here I switched quickly to the 3 minutes just to have a look at if I see anything interesting happening here. Now it definitely caught my attention at some point. I marked out this year 3-minute candle POI. Why is this one important? It was the one that retested this POI after taking out liquidity, and now price basically closed above it, right? So if price comes back into that 3-minute candle, I could definitely look for any perhaps even 1 minute lower time frame confirmations. So what I did, I went back to the 1 minute. Yes, and here we can see that POI also, right? And again, right? So my entry sits basically on the 50% level, right? As in halfway of that POI. So definitely interesting. And at some point, let's have a look. Yeah, price continued higher and also confirmed a internal choke, right? Now this here candle definitely showed the potential for me to enter at this point via a limit order, because everything to the left is either efficient, liquidated, mitigated, whatsoever, right? So this was the only inefficient area. And basically, I don't need a liquidity for that in this case, right? So basically, I can go immediately with a limit order, for example, like that. Entry here, and then stop loss again, the same, right? As my first position. So let's continue. Yeah, price, came down a little bit, but then again, it continued higher, leaving a, candlewise pullback, liquidity for us. Well, add that to this year POI, and we definitely have something interesting happening here at this time, right? So I kept my eyes on price action, and at this time, I believe, liquidity got liquidated, right? Here it was on its way. Here it got liquidated, and at this point, I believe I placed my sell, buy limit order. Yeah, as we can see here, right? Because I thought, well, there is still some fair value gap above this candle. Technically, I could enter on this candle, right? But as I mentioned, right, on the 3 minute, even it may not look on the 1 minute so, but on a 3 minute, this was our candle that kind of topped out with also a very minor imbalance or fair value gap sitting above it, right? So that's why I preferred the 3 minute instead of the 1 minute as per my entry plan. Now let's continue then. And yeah, I don't know what it was, but at some point I got an alert, right? That my position was triggered. I think news or some catalyst was happening. I don't know. But yeah, anyway, it definitely worked in my advantage, as in triggering my fourth position in this case, right? Because I already have 3 identical positions of this year first position, and now I have my first position of my second position, right? So 4 running positions, and at some point, right, price came back, and I thought, okay, let's go immediately with a limit order like that. I mean, stop order, sorry, before price continues higher, right? But remember, guys, my pending order of this year, my 4th position, was still pending, right? So price came very close also in triggering that position. But while it was now hovering between my entry and stop loss here, I thought, well, okay, let's, before it continues higher, at least utilize that for an additional entry on this position. If it just continues a little bit more down, then I will also be triggered my fourth pending order, identical position of my first position here, entry, right? So let's just see. Yeah, so at this point, I definitely got triggered, right? I did not change the color because this here candle was moving so fast. I just first wanted to place my, or confirm, I can better say, my identical 2 for 2 of my second entry here via a stop order, right? Before price, with 4 seconds to go, before price continues higher, right? So I will, change the color from blue to yellow because yellow indicates fourth identical positions, right? So basically at this point, let's continue. Yeah, like, here I first, recolored this here position tool from gray to purple because now purple represents 2 positions, right? And this one, I believe it was what the next screenshot. Yeah, so here I have changed the color also from blue to yellow, right? So now I have 4 positions running here, and now I have 2 positions running here from my second entry. So a total of 6 positions, right? Now, if we then should continue, yeah, so at this point, price came back, right? But before it did, I forgot to mention, look, I thought, well, if it now comes again, to create efficiency at this here wick, right? Because that wick created efficiency here. While doing so, it took out also, internal liquidity earlier here, which replaced, and it became somewhat of this year now, right? So liquidation taken out, efficiency created, and this now could act as a single candle mitigation entry or, efficiency after liquidation. So yeah, basically I placed a, third identical position of my second entry here via a limit order, just in case if price decides to come a little bit lower than just perhaps the first half of the wick, right? The top half, but perhaps, again, looking at this is the top and the bottom. Yeah, like my entry again, right? Just like how my entry here is sitting halfway from this year candle. So, interesting. Yeah, so basically that's why I decided to place a limit order, right? And eventually I got triggered. Yes, and now before price again continued higher, I placed another fourth identical position of my second entry here, right? And yeah, basically price then again went higher, triggering my fourth identical position via a stop order. And after a while, it was heavily reacting. And again, I guess it has something to do with the news that came out. But at this point, I marked out this year as my POI candle, and now this year as my potential candle-wise liquidity, right? So if price comes back, I am not surprised, and I will look for any kind of reactions from around these areas to then perhaps scale in more additional positions, right? So just thinking ahead. And yeah, so at this point, price, I went to the 3-minute, had a look, and yeah, we were on our way to our TP. And our TP, if you ask what is our TP, it was, let's say, the 1 hour swing high, right? And at this point, yeah, on the 3-minute, we had definitely a confirmed BOS, right? After this year liquidity basically was taken out like that, we had a reaction from here. This year efficient, this year, well, not efficient, but we had now a confirmed BOS, right? So things could get interesting, as in, okay, either price may come here and create that efficiency here, or it may just continue higher and, create either new liquidity on the way, and then, come down, take out this year liquidity, create efficiency here, and, all the concepts that we would like to see and utilize, right, whenever they play out. Now, I went back to the 1-minute time frame. Now, on the 1 minute, we can see, okay, we had internal liquidity. This was that candle still. And on the 1 minute, we had no candle close above this year high, but on a 3-minute it did. So even though if it looks like not a valid BOS on the 1-minute, the 3-minute, the higher time frame definitely confirms it. So that's why I left it here, just to avoid confusion, right? And at this point, even if this candle closes above the current candle, or sorry, the previous candle, then our BOS on the lower time frame also would be confirmed, right? Now at that point, I also moved around a couple of things, because this was now our most recent pullback. This was our first pullback as an engineered liquidity. This could act as a decisional POI in conjunction with this year liquidity, and this year POI could act as a area of interest in conjunction with our engineered liquidity, right? So yeah, and let's continue. And at this point, price just pushed higher. It didn't even look back at this year liquidity, and from the looks of it, it was about to create new liquidity here. But let's just have a look what indeed happened then. Okay, price started to pull back, so that is interesting. And at some point, let's see. Yeah, so this is still our valid liquidity point, because this high did not take out that high. And instead, it rather created liquidity sitting above it here, right? So yeah, with that in mind, at some point, price may take out liquidity, target those stop losses here, and then while doing so, hitting my TP, right? So that's basically the idea. And at this point, let's have a look. Yeah, price was a little bit ranging, right? As we can see, between this year high and this year low. So no actual direction currently, but the overall bias indeed is bullish, right? So with that in mind, let's just continue. Okay, price went a little bit higher, and then it again started to come down, right? So now this here became our liquidity, right? It moved from here to here. It was obviously not done on the chart, but later on, I definitely did it, right? When that liquidity got taken out, because I set my alert, at that point, and because price may just continue higher now that it has created efficiency at this candle. And if not, right, like that, then I know the reason why it did that, right? Because this now will act as our liquidity. Yes, so this one moves to here, technically, at this point. But as I mentioned, right, yeah, so basically here, my alert, which I set off, it immediately went off, right? So that's why I moved my liquidity now actually to here. And now, again, looking for price action, how it reacts to liquidity. It was definitely interesting, right? A lot of jumping up and down. So I was glad it was not happening at around my pinnacle point from where I entered. I mean, it did here. I don't know, again, if it was, had to do something with news or some other catalyst or whatever, but, it did not impact my, entry. So that's why I definitely glad. Now at this point, the price, went out of my sight from the 1 minute time frame. So what I did was I, switched over to the 3 minute, and here we can see also on the 3 minute, right, that now actually this is our replaced liquidity, right? If this was our, let's say, micro liquidity, right, it got liquidated and now confirmed BOS here. Now our replace structure basically looks something like this now, right? So this became our new liquidity point on a 3 minutes. So at this point, price can do one of two things, right? Either it comes and takes out that liquidity, and perhaps it even may come back all the way down to that decisional POI or even extreme POI before again continuing higher, right? Or it may just take out liquidity and then perhaps tap into this sheer wick and continue higher, or simply it may just continue higher and create new liquidity, and then that one moves to here, right? Obviously. So yeah, so at that point, yeah, I just kept my eyes on price action, and here it came very close and eventually all positions, running positions, that is, hit their TP, right? So in short, definitely interesting session going on since yesterday. I basically had 3 short positions, got out at break even. And then I basically had 6 positions here, 4 positions here, 10 positions in total, and all stopped out at break even, right? Except for these positions. I did suffer from 6R loss because it's one identical position, but times 6 taken, right? So 6R loss here. But then, looking at the results of my most recent buy positions, right, will definitely make up for those, 6R losses. And I will have even some profits over left and then some, right? So definitely not bad. 4 times 19R and 4 times 11R. Well, you do the math, right? And that all in one day. I must say that every position, taken, here, 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 and obviously these ones, right, are all taken with a fixed based risk, right? Minimal risk, as in, $50 per position, right? So I have here $200 times 19R and $200 times 11R, right? So yeah, basically that's it, folks. And it was definitely an interesting session, very dynamic, but this just shows you that even if, your initial position does not play out for whatever reason it may be, it does not mean that, any plan behind it will fail. In this case, I was for the whole month of February bullish, right? And as the chart shows, also that price action definitely favored the buyers, right? But at this year area, I thought, well, let's go for that counter trade position, right? And let's just get out here. Not even the inducement or previous daily low, but then price not even took out that one. And this is just a very good example of, of counter trading that, okay, if we target here, price just may create new liquidity here like that, right? And then, basically it just stops you out or takes you out at break even, depending on your managing skills, obviously. But yeah, that's basically it, family. I hope you guys also had a very profitable day. And let's just trade responsible, trust your system, and I will catch you guys during tomorrow.